Before we begin, take a breath. This isn't just a podcast, right? It's a new way to think, speak, and live in English. Welcome to Coughlin Podcast, where words flow, confidence grows, and every sip brings you closer to fluency. Okay, so imagine you have this car, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And the steering column is just like totally shattered. The axles are bent, the tires are completely deflated.
Oh man, just a total wreck.
Exactly, a total wreck. Now, would you take, I don't know, a massive 1,000 horsepower racing engine, drop it right into the broken chassis and just hit the gas?
I mean, obviously not. You'd completely destroy the car.
Right, it would fall apart instantly. So my question is, why is it that we so often do exactly that to our own bodies? And honestly, even to our own minds?
Yeah, that is the big question.
Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. Today, we are exploring a really fascinating framework from the anonymous instructor behind the Coughlin program.
Yeah, and on the surface, what we're looking at today, it appears to be a lesson on physical fitness, just a vocabulary lesson based on an interview.
Right, but underneath that,
Exactly. Underneath, it is this rather relentless masterclass on radical self-reliance. It is a profound shift in perspective.
it really is. Okay, let's unpack this. The whole philosophy here seems to be about, like, stripping away external dependencies, right? To find out what's actually functioning underneath.
That's the core of it, yeah. And that journey begins with a surprisingly stark observation about human biology, specifically regarding the next generation.
Oh, yeah, the part about the kids.
Right. So the Coughlin material highlights an experience from a fitness expert named Anthony. He runs a platform called Bodyweight Muscle.
Oh, okay.
And Anthony recently moved back to this beautiful, historic small town in northern Greece. He started training people there, and he noticed this severe physical decline in the local youth.
Decline in what way, exactly? I mean, is this just the standard, old guy complaining that kids don't play outside anymore?
Well, it goes much deeper than just like a lack of fresh air. It's a fundamental loss of human biomechanics.
It's biomechanics.
Yeah. I mean, older generations grew up running, climbing, scraping their knees. Their bodies naturally adapted to physical gravity. But today's youth, as the material points out, are just navigating a digital world.
Oh, so they're just constantly hunched over screens.
Exactly. And from a physiological standpoint, their pectoral muscles, the chest, are constantly shortened and tight, their shoulders are rolled forward, and their rhomboids, the muscles in the upper back,
Yeah.
those are just stretched out and weak. They're essentially losing the basic movement patterns that human bodies actually evolved to perform.
And see, I feel like the immediate instinct for anyone who sees a teenager with terrible posture is usually like, oh, we need to get this kid to a gym.
Right, get them lifting weights.
Yeah, get them lifting weights to build some strength.
Yeah.
But the framework we're looking at argues that sending that hunched over kid to a traditional gym is actually like one of the worst things you could do.
Precisely. Because we have to look at what a modern gym actually is.
Right.
It's a room full of these heavily engineered machines that are designed to isolate specific muscles, and they artificially stabilize the rest of your body for you.
Ah, okay, so it does the balancing work for you.
Right. So if you take a teenager whose spine is misaligned and whose shoulders are internally rotated, and you sit them on, say, a chest press machine, the machine just holds them in place.
Wow.
When you add heavy resistance to that setup, you aren't fixing their posture. The instructor emphasizes that you are actively loading heavy stress onto compromised joints.
Which brings me right back to that car engine analogy.
Exactly.
If your skeletal structure is the bent axle,
Right.
loading it up with a heavy gym machine is like drop it in that 1,000 horsepower engine.
You're just going to crash harder and faster. You are literally cementing that dysfunction into their physical framework.
So if the modern gym is essentially a trap for a misaligned body, what is the Coughlin alternative?
What's fascinating here is that the alternative is a total regression to the absolute basics of human movement.
Meaning no weights at all.
No external iron whatsoever, just body weight. The philosophy dictates that before you earn the right to lift an external object, you must master the weight of your own physical form.
So we are talking about, what, squats?
Squats, push-ups, and inverted rows, where you pull your chest up to a horizontal bar.
Okay, yeah.
And these aren't just exercises, they're complex neurological events. Like
What?
when you do a freestanding squat, your core has to stabilize, your ankles have to flex.
And you're balancing the whole time.
Right. Your nervous system has to constantly adjust your balance. A leg press machine does all of that stabilizing for you.
There's also an undeniable freedom to this approach.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're physical capability is entirely self-contained. You don't need a massive commercial facility. You don't need like a membership card or anything.
You can train in a park, in a hotel room, or even just in a tiny apartment.
But okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
There is this deeply ingrained belief, I think, that bodyweight training has a very low ceiling.
I hear that all the time, yeah.
Like, sure, push-ups are great when you're a beginner, but eventually you can do, what, 30 or 40 of them easily. At that point, aren't you just forced to switch to heavy iron if you want to trigger any actual muscle growth? I mean, doesn't it just become endurance?
Well, that is the common assumption. But the material argues that this fundamentally misunderstands how human muscle tissue actually operates.
How so?
Well, your central nervous system does not possess a calculator.
Okay.
Your bicep has no concept of the number 30. And your chest doesn't know what a 45-pound plate is.
Right, you can't see what you're holding.
Exactly. The only language your muscle fibers speak is tension and fatigue. And the Confluent program introduces this method to artificially manufacture that tension without adding a single ounce of external weight.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What is it?
They call it the mind-to-muscle connection.
The mind-to-muscle connection. How does that work in practice? Are we talking about just like flexing in the mirror?
Far from it. So think about when most people do push-ups.
Usually as fast as possible.
Right, they utilize momentum, they drop down quickly, maybe bounce slightly at the bottom, and push up fast to just rack up a high number.
Yeah, to hit that 50 rep mark or whatever.
The mind-to-muscle technique eliminates momentum entirely.
Completely.
You move incredibly slowly. But the key, and this is crucial, is that you intentionally, aggressively contract the target muscles throughout the entire range of motion.
The visualization the instructor uses for this is super fascinating.
Oh, well, the 500 kilos?
Yeah. You are supposed to lower yourself and push back up as if you were trying to move 500 kilos of resistance,
Right.
like you're trapped under a car or something. You are essentially fighting your own body.
And the biological drop-off is severe. The instructor actually notes his own experience with this. Under normal, fast conditions, he could easily hit 40 push-ups.
Okay.
But when he applied this intense, agonizing mental squeeze, he reached complete muscle failure at just 15 reps.
Just 15. From 40 down to 15. I mean, I get the biology, but I imagine that is a massive hit to the ego.
Oh, without a doubt.
If you're used to being the person who could just bang out 40 reps in the gym, dropping down to 15 shaking, miserable reps, I mean, it probably feels like you're getting weaker, not stronger.
It requires a complete psychological detachment from the numbers. And modern exercise science actually heavily supports this, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. Research shows you can trigger significant muscle growth doing anywhere from 5 to 40 repetitions, provided you take the muscle to absolute failure.
Meaning the point where you literally can't push up anymore.
Exactly. The point where the fibers physically cannot contract one more time. And the framework provides a very clear progression for this. You don't just start with the mind-to-muscle squeeze on day one.
Right, especially if you're out of shape.
If you are out of shape, your first goal is simply to achieve 5 technically perfect repetitions.
And no ego lifting allowed. Like if you can't do a full push-up, you lean against a wall.
Right, exactly. Wall push-ups are great. Once you get 5 perfect wall push-ups, you move to the stairs. You slowly build the structural integrity of your joints until you can execute 15 perfect standard reps on the floor. Only then, once the architecture is absolutely flawless, do you begin introducing that intense mental tension to make those 15 reps feel like 500 kilos.
Wow. You are constantly shifting the goalposts internally.
Precisely. Now, it is worth addressing the legs here.
Yeah, because legs are strong.
Right. Human legs are incredibly powerful. They evolved to carry us around all day long. So slowly squeezing your quads during a bodyweight squat will only take you so far before the tension simply isn't enough to trigger hypertrophy.
So how do you hack the biology of the legs without a squat rack and heavy plates?
Through the physics of acceleration and deceleration.
Okay, tell me more.
If you can't add heavy mass, you must add extreme velocity. Yes, explosive movements, plyometrics. We're talking about maximum effort sprints or charging up a steep hill or box jumps where you launch your entire body weight into the air.
I see.
The neurological shock of landing and immediately exploding upward forces the fast-twitch muscle fibers in the legs to adapt and grow, purely to survive the extreme force of gravity.
Man, so the theme here is forced adaptation. through internal discipline.
Yeah.
You just strip away the gym, and you force your body to adapt to gravity and mental tension.
That's a great way to put it.
But, the deep dive takes a massive pivot right around here.
It really does.
The confluent philosophy takes this concept of stripping things away and applies it to something even more fundamental than exercise. It applies it to human sustenance.
Food.
Yes, food. We are talking about extreme fasting.
Yeah, so the framework shifts from imposing mechanical stress on the body to imposing metabolic deprivation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, to be honest.
Because the instructor details a 48-hour fasting protocol that is, frankly, quite severe.
Severe is an understatement. The protocol is a 24-hour dry fast, meaning absolutely zero food and zero liquid, not even a drop of water.
Right.
And then that is followed by 24 hours of drinking what he refers to as snake juice, which is just water mixed with salt and potassium. I have to throw a massive red flag here.
Which is completely fair.
A dry fast, going an entire day without water while still functioning in society, that sounds incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Furthermore, the instructor claims he's doing this while working, recording interviews, and helping take care of 2 newborn babies.
Yeah, that's what he states in the material.
I just find it really hard to believe someone isn't just a lethargic, brain fog zombie under those specific conditions.
Well, your skepticism is completely warranted. And to be clear, we are just exploring the source material here. Protocols like dry fasting carry immense physiological risks, particularly regarding kidney function and blood viscosity.
Right, not medical advice.
Definitely not. However, analyzing the mechanics of why the Confluent program advocates for this reveals a really fascinating dive into human evolutionary biology.
Okay, I'm listening.
The claim of extreme mental clarity during a fast seems paradoxical to us, right? Because we equate food with instant energy.
Yeah, you eat a candy bar, you get energy.
Exactly. But we forget how incredibly taxing digestion actually is on the human body.
Oh, like the food coma effect.
Yeah.
When you eat too much at lunch and you just want to sleep.
Exactly. Digesting a meal requires massive amounts of blood flow to be diverted to the gastrointestinal tract. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state.
Ah, I see.
When you completely remove food, you shut down that massive energy expenditure. Furthermore, after your liver depletes its glycogen stores, the body switches to burning its own fat for fuel.
And that produces ketones, right?
Yes, producing molecules called ketones. And the human brain actually runs incredibly efficiently on ketones.
So the brain fog lifts because the body isn't constantly expending energy trying to break down lunch.
Precisely. Because from an evolutionary standpoint, think about it. If our hunter-gatherer ancestors got lethargic and sleepy when they were starving, the human race would have gone extinct.
They would have just laid down and died.
Right. Deprivation triggers a survival mechanism. Adrenaline and noradrenaline increase. The nervous system becomes hyper-vigilant, sharp, and intensely focused so that you have the mental acuity to go find food.
Okay, that actually explains the mental clarity claim perfectly. But what about the snake juice?
The salt water, yeah.
Why not just transition to normal tap water after the dry fast? Why salt and potassium?
That comes down to the electrical system of the body. Your nervous system and your muscles operate on electrical impulses.
Right.
The literal battery charge for those impulses comes from electrolytes, specifically sodium and potassium. When you fast, your insulin levels drop, which signals your kidneys to flush out water and sodium at a rapid rate.
Oh, so you're losing salt fast.
Yes, so if you only drink plain water, you just dilute the remaining electrolytes in your blood. Your synapses start misfiring, your muscles cramp up, and you experience severe fatigue.
So the snake juice just keeps the lights on, basically.
Exactly. The salt and potassium in the water sustain the body's electrical grid while keeping the digestive system dormant.
It is a profound, albeit, extreme way of viewing the body. Strip away the constant feeding, and underneath you don't find weakness. You find a hyper-efficient, survival-driven machine.
It's all about stripping things down to the studs.
Which brings us to the final piece of the Confluent framework.
Yes.
Because we've stripped away the physical gym. We've stripped away the metabolic comfort of food. Now, the philosophy demands we strip away the psychological comfort of societal safety nets, specifically the institution of higher education.
Yeah, and this concept is explored through a rather heartbreaking message from student named Ali.
Right, from Afghanistan.
Yes. Ali lives in Kabul, Afghanistan, and is studying law and politics at the university there. And he writes to the instructor, completely demoralized.
It sounded really rough.
It is. He describes his professors as, quote, evil. He says they are constantly negative, crushing the students' confidence, and proudly declaring that no one will pass their impossible exams.
Man, that's terrible.
Ali's passion for learning has been entirely destroyed, and he is basically paralyzed, wondering if he should just walk away from the university altogether.
It's a really heavy situation. And the instructor's response is just, well, it's unsentimental and brutally pragmatic.
Very much so.
He divides the professional world into two distinct realities. The first is the world of protected professions. If Ollie truly wants to be a lawyer, or someone wants to be a surgeon or a civil engineer, the instructor concedes that you simply have to endure the misery.
Right, because those fields are guarded by institutional gatekeepers.
You can't just be a freelance surgeon.
No, you cannot legally practice law or perform surgery without the credential. So in those specific domains, the material argues that the university is not necessarily about education. It is a hazing ritual you must survive to acquire the piece of paper that grants you entry.
You deal with the terrible professors, you pass the test, you get the degree, and then you begin your actual life.
Exactly. But then the instructor pivots sharply.
Yeah, this is the big pivot.
If you are not in a protected profession if your goal is to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, a creator, or an artist, the confluent philosophy views the modern university as a complete illusion.
A staggering waste of time and capital.
The argument is that the market does not ask for an artist's GPA, nor does a customer care where an entrepreneur got their business degree. They only care about the value of the actual product.
But wait, millions of people still pour years of their lives and massive amounts of debt into business schools and art institutes every single year.
They do.
So what does this all mean? I have to push back here too. Telling a young person that university is a joke feels, well, a bit reckless.
Sure, it's highly controversial.
Because not everyone is a lone wolf visionary who can just launch a business from their garage.
Yeah.
Some people desperately need the structure of a curriculum. They need the networking. They need professors to guide them. Isn't there value in that structured environment?
This raises an important question, right? And that is the exact psychological mechanism the framework is critiquing.
What do you mean?
Well, the philosophy asks, why do we crave that structure? The suggestion here is that we seek out the curriculum not for education, but for insulation against fear.
Oh, wow, okay.
If you want to be an entrepreneur, the sheer chaos of the open market is terrifying. If you launch a product today, the market might completely reject it tomorrow.
And that hurts. That is true vulnerability.
Yes. So sitting in a lecture hall, taking notes on market theory feels productive, but it's completely safe.
You are shielded from the actual risk of failure.
Exactly. A university gives you a syllabus, clear rules, and a guaranteed grade if you follow the rubric. True entrepreneurship gives you none of those things. So the instructor argues that enrolling in these programs is often just an elaborate, socially acceptable way to hide from the fear of actually stepping into the arena.
You know what this reminds me of? Going all the way back to the start of our deep dive. A useless university degree is exactly like that complicated chest press machine in the gym.
Oh, that's a brilliant connection.
It looks incredibly impressive. It feels like you were doing something difficult and important.
Yeah.
But in reality, the machine is artificially stabilizing you. It's doing all the hard neurological balancing work for you.
Yes.
It is a very expensive way to hide the fact that without it, you don't actually know how to stand on your own 2 feet and balance the weight of your own life.
That is the perfect synthesis of the entire confluent material we looked at today. The underlying thread connecting everything we've discussed is the rejection of artificial stability. The framework systematically forces you to confront what remains when the external supports are kicked away.
It is completely uncompromising.
Yeah.
I mean, from the raw biomechanics of a slow, agonizing bodyweight push-up to the evolutionary jolt of fasting until your brain is forced into hyperfocus,
Right.
to having the sheer psychological courage to walk away from institutions that are honestly charging you a premium just to hold your hand.
It demands that you locate your own center of gravity, physically, metabolically, and professionally. And as we wrap up, that is exactly where the lens turns back to you, the listener. If you look at the architecture of your own daily life, where is your artificial stability coming from? Is there a piece of technology, an institution, or even a daily habit that you believe is empowering you, but is actually just a complicated machine holding you in a compromised posture? What would happen if you stripped it away? Could you carry your own weight?
I love that question. And I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over as you go about your day. We've explored the biology of how human muscle only grows when subjected to agonizing near-failure tension. And we've looked at how the human brain only reaches its peak evolutionary sharpness when deprived of the constant comfort of food.
Yeah.
So if our biology dictates that growth only occurs in the presence of severe stress and deprivation, is it possible that our modern relentless pursuit of absolute comfort is the very thing making us fundamentally weak? Something to think about. Thank you for taking this journey with us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.